Hey guys, welcome back to more political chatter. Today we will be talking about this new poll, this insane new poll that we have from the state of Iowa, which, if accurate, would be a shock to the system, be a shock to everything we know about politics after the 2024 presidential election. So looking at this new poll, now this is a internal poll by Zach Walz. He is a candidate, he is a Democratic candidate for Senate here in Iowa running against Joni Ernst. This is a poll from Public Policy Polling. And here is what it found. It found, of course, that again, this is commissioned by the Zach Walz campaign. Zach Walz versus Joni Ernst, who's the incumbent Republican senator. Ernst wins by just a point. Well within the margin of error. It's essentially a dead heat, basically a tied race there in Iowa between these two candidates, and doesn't get much better for Joni Ernst when you look at these other candidates. Keep in mind this is Iowa, which Donald Trump won by 13.2% in the last election, and a state he has won by strong margins in all 3 years he has ran. Now, looking ahead at Joni Ernst versus Nathan Sage, he's more of an outsider, more working class, more blue collar sort of Democratic candidate in the primary. Ernst wins by 4%. In this third poll against Jackie Norris is the chair of the Des Moines School Board, a much less known figure than Zach Walz, the state senator. Against Jackie Norris, Joni Ernst wins by 3 percentage points. And then when Joni Ernst faces off against Josh Turek, who's a state representative in Iowa, she wins by 4% once again. So the closest race, according to this poll, is against Zach Walz. But I would really carry this with a grain of salt when it comes to the difference between these Democratic candidates, because again, this poll was commissioned by Zach Walz. He, of course, in a poll commissioned by you, you want yourself to appear as the strongest candidate so that donors go to your side, etc. It could have lots of implications. But the point being, this race, if this poll is accurate, is well within the possibility of Democrats flipping in 2026. It really speaks to a broader point, that being that state after state, Democrats are doing what they need to do to make state after state competitive. States that should not be competitive, Democrats are putting in play. All in all, they've done this with a bunch of states now. Of course, Iowa, which we just talked about. Georgia, of course, you've got your and Michigan, traditional swing states. But Senate Democrats were able to get Roy Cooper to run in North Carolina. That puts it in play. This is my current prediction, by the way. In Maine, of course, a Democratic leaning state, this should be in play for Democrats. Senate Democrats were able to get Sherrod Brown in Ohio to run. That puts Ohio, a pretty deep Republican state, in play. They were able to get Dan Osborne in Nebraska, the independent. They were able to get him to run. The state party will probably endorse him there. In Texas, it looks like Ken Paxton is on track to win the primary. He would be an incredibly weak candidate compared to the incumbent Republican John Cornyn. Ken Paxton being the Republican nominee would put Texas in play. Chuck Schumer is about to get Mary Peltola, it looks like, to run in the state of Alaska. State by state by state, they're either fielding the strongest candidates, either the weakest Republicans are leading their primaries, and it appears in state after state, in Senate race after Senate race, Democrats are doing what they need to do to put them in play, even if they don't win, right? I don't think that Democrats are on track to flip Iowa as of now. But even if they don't win, if you have all of these deep, deep, deep Republican states, Nebraska, Iowa, Ohio, Alaska, maybe South Carolina, maybe Florida in the future, that are in play, that is more ground that Republicans have to defend. That is more resources and time and everything else that Republicans have to divert from the real swing states, Georgia, North Carolina, Michigan, Maine, to defend territory that they should not be losing in the first place. Every strong candidate that Democrats field is a good win for them, even if it doesn't mean a win in that state in November. I've been saying for a while, Democrats should just, literally try to get the most the strongest Democrat in each state to run. That's what they should focus on as an electoral strategy. They should try to get John Bell Edwards, the former governor, to run in Louisiana, the former Democrat. They should get Mike Espy to run in Mississippi. He has a track record of overperforming. They should get Laura Kelly to run in Kansas, the current Democratic governor. She'd be a perfect candidate to run. They should get what's it, Dave Frudenthal to run in Wyoming. Why not just say, please help us out? If we get a strong candidate in every single one of these deep red races, I mean, Wyoming, I'm talking about, that is good news for Democrats. Frudenthal wouldn't come close to winning in Wyoming. Why? Because Trump won Wyoming by 46%. Frudenthal won in Wyoming when it was a time of far less partisanship than there is now. Dave Frudenthal wouldn't come close, but he would make the state at least 15, 20 points closer if Republicans have to throw in a few 10 or 100,000 more dollars to beat Dave Frudenthal in Wyoming than they wouldn't have if Frudenthal hadn't run. That'd be good news for the Democratic Party. That would be an extra $10 or $100,000 that Democrats have an advantage of over Republicans. They don't even. I'm saying they don't even have to fund John Bell Edwards in Louisiana or Andy Beshear in Kentucky. That's different because Beshear will probably run for president. And that'll damage his chances. Or Laura Kelly in Kansas or Dan Osborne in Nebraska, or Dave Frudenthal in Wyoming. They should just run these candidates for the heck of it, just so that Republicans are scared across the board. I feel like that would be such an interesting electoral strategy that we've never seen before. Run strong candidates everywhere and see what happens. Maybe you could get lucky in some of these more pinker states. Maybe you could flip Iowa. Maybe you could flip Ohio. That would be super interesting. But it appears that a lesser version of that is what is happening right now with these 2026 midterm elections. They certainly aren't going to run Dave Frudenthal in Wyoming, but what they are doing is making these red states close. They're making Iowa competitive. They're making Ohio competitive with Sherrod Brown. And who knows what will come in the future. Races surprise us a lot of the time. In the last final months, there are lots of races that aren't on anyone's radar months before it that get real close. So we'll see what happens. But again, this is where Democrats want to be with the Senate map that they have, just the state of the Senate right now being 43 to 47 after the 2024 elections, they're really not looking in that bad of a place right now in 2026. Of course, the map is bad, but given the map, they're not doing too bad. They're definitely, this is my prediction, what's on your screen now. They're favored in Maine. Here, I'll bring up the spreadsheet. They're favored in Maine. If Graham Plattner's the nominee, at least, I see her pretty much crushing Susan Collins, or see him crushing Susan Collins by 4.5%. They're absolutely favored in North Carolina. Former Governor Roy Cooper, very popular, running against Michael Whatley, the Trump pick. In Michigan, this one will be close. Democrats probably favored if they have El Said or McMorrow as the nominee. If Haley Stevens is the nominee, that's a different story. John Ossoff is on track to win. I don't think anyone is arguing that. So you've got those four, somewhat toss up, sort of competitive seats, all in Democratic hands. With just that, that's two flips alone. That's Tom Tillis' seat in North Carolina, Republican flipping, and that's Susan Collins' seat in Maine flipping. That's already two flips. From 47, they go to 49. It's now 49-51, a lot closer. U.S. Senate, if there's one Republican dissenter on a bill, then boom, that changes the whole ballgame. Or two, I should say, because if it's one, then it's 50-50. Vance casts the tie-breaking vote, whatever. But what I'm saying is from here, now Democrats have some leverage. Now they could look at some of these other Republican states and maybe they could get lucky in some. Let's just say, since we're talking about Iowa, what if Zach Walz comes out of nowhere, wins the nomination, and Joni Ernst runs for re-election? She'd be the weakest Republican by far in the U.S. Senate race in Iowa. What if she runs? What if Josh Turek, or I'm sorry, Josh Zach Walz pulls out an upset somehow, wins by less than a percentage point. Boom, it's 50-50. If there's a single Republican dissenter in a bill, That's a Democratic win. That means Democrats win. So now Democrats have some wiggle room. Once they win these four somewhat close states, Maine, North Carolina, Michigan, and Georgia, then they have some pathways. From there, they have some pathways to maybe take control of the Senate. If they don't win all four of these states, it's probably over. They're probably not, getting any leverage on bills. They're probably never blocking, striking down any bills. But if they win these four states, then they could look to some other states. Then they could look to Mary Peltola in Alaska. A new poll from there showed it'll be close. That's 50-50. They could do one more. Let's say another scandal emerges in the general election in Texas, and Beto O'Rourke, James Tallarico, he'd be interesting. I hope Tallarico runs. I hope Allred is not the nominee. But any three of those, O'Rourke, Tallarico, and Allred, what if they're able to beat Ken Paxton in the primary? They get lucky, and boom, they have a pathway to winning the Senate. Yes, it's narrow, but it absolutely exists. And the thing is, going back to my main point, the more states that Democrats make competitive means a larger pathway to taking control of the Senate. If they get Laura Kelly to run in Kansas, that's one more. At least pl- whatever, likely Republican state. If they get John Bel Edwards in Louisiana with the very unpopular Bill Cassidy, Republican incumbent, I might add, that adds another one into the mix. If they get Steve Bullock to run in Montana, that's another good example. The former governor, very popular, ran for president in 2020 in the Democratic primary, didn't make it to Iowa. That if they get him to run, that's another likely Republican state. Democrats have avenues. They don't even need to spend that much in these races. They shouldn't, because they're probably going to lose. But the more races you get a good, strong Democrat to run in, the greater chances you win just one of them. You don't have to win multiple. You certainly don't have to win multiple. You don't really have to win any. But if you could get lucky and just pick off one, that would be absolutely huge. It opens the door. It widens the path. It widens the path to Senate control. When you have, Montana safe, Kansas safe, Louisiana safe, Iowa, we weren't talking about before. If you've got Iowa safe, Ohio would be safe if you didn't have Sherrod Brown. South Carolina safe. Ashley Moody safe in Florida. Let's say Ken Paxton wasn't challenging Cornyn in the primary. Texas would have been safe. Let's say they didn't field Peltola in Alaska. You have no path. You have literally no path. So because of these strong efforts that Democrats are making, these Senate Democrats are making to boost strong Democrats in Democratic primaries, it opens the door, and it gives Democrats more opportunities to get lucky and flip some seats. So, this could easily be the map if Senate Democrats, didn't try to field any strong candidates, didn't do whatever, if you had strong Republican incumbents in every state, if it was just simply a good state of the Senate for Republicans, if you had good Republican senators and bad Democratic challengers, this could easily be the map. Nebraska, of course, safe too. Boom, Democrats have quite literally zero path to the Senate. But because of this stuff that Chuck Schumer is doing, Senate Democrats are doing, I hate to give Chuck Schumer credit. I just want to say that. Please oust him, Senate Democrats. Primary him. AOC, please primary him. But because of what Senate Democrats are doing, they're getting good candidates, and that's undeniable. Peltola in Alaska, Brown in Ohio, apparently Zach Walls in Iowa, Dan Osborne, the independent in Nebraska. And then, on the flip side, Ken Paxton, the Republican in Texas. And then just because of partisanship, South Carolina and Florida are likely. And now you have avenues. Now you could go to Alaska. Now you could go to Nebraska, Iowa, Ohio, whatever. So this is the state of the race. When it comes to the midterm elections 2026, here's where things stand in my opinion. Again, here's my prediction. Again, I currently have it 51-49. So thank you all for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.